fair work. Conference, he's one of our own, a proper trade unionist who's consistently been on the Labour left, and that's why he has the credibility needed to advance a radical programme befitting of the Labour Party, because he genuinely believes in them, and that's why I'm so proud that Unite is backing him. Richard, I'd invite you to make your address to conference.
Well, Scott, thanks very much indeed for that introduction, comrades and friends, fellow Unite members. I do think that both the Scottish Labour Party and Scotland is at a turning point, because we simply cannot go on tolerating growing poverty and widening inequality. We cannot go on with a society where the richest 1% own more personal wealth in Scotland today than the entire bottom 50% put together. We can't go on with a society in Scotland where last night a quarter of our children went to bed hungry. We cannot go on in a society where a half of our pensioners, especially our older pensioners, those very people who fought for and defended the welfare state, are living in fuel poverty, going to bed, waking up, not knowing whether to switch on the heating or whether to eat. We cannot go on, as you heard in the debate this morning, with a housing system in Scotland in crisis, which is being cast once more under the shadow of private landlordism, with rents going up, real wages being driven down, a new frontier of exploitation not seen since the days of Mary Barber and John Wheatley. We cannot go on. We cannot go on either, as everybody in this hall knows, with an economy beset by precarious work, 0 hours contracts, agency working and poverty pay, where if you are a woman working in Scotland, you are twice as likely to be earning less than the living wage of £8.45 an hour than if you are a man. Where you are twice as likely to be unemployed if you are from a minority ethnic background than if you are not. Where you are twice as likely to be unemployed if you have a disability than if you have not. We cannot go on, frankly, with an economic system where too much power rests in too few hands. So this Scottish Labour leadership election is about winning back the trust of the people of Scotland, but not for the sake of it, but for the sake of challenging those big tasks before us, of ending poverty, challenging an economic system so that it works for the many and not the few. And let me say this morning that I tell you this: we cannot go back. We cannot go back to the old style of politics that got us into this mess in the first place. We cannot go back to a delusion that we can simply manage our way out of it. We must go forward and learn the lessons of the June general election, where we stood as a Labour Party once again on a radical manifesto offering hope, led by a principled and consistent leader who embodied that sense of hope. And that is precisely what the Scottish Labour Party now needs to do, by being confident again about being Labour, by being clear again about what it is we stand for, by rediscovering our sense of purpose, and yes, Labour's historical mission again, including our trades union roots. And let's do it. Let's do all of those things with a bit of passion and with a bit of fire in our bellies as well. So I stand before you today, both with immense pride, but with deep humility. Humility that I've received extensive support from the grassroots of the Labour Party, with 42 constituency Labour parties nominating me, from all of our socialist societies in Scotland, from the Cooperative Party and from the Labour Party youth wing as well, because it is this campaign for real change, this campaign of hope, that is winning young people back to the Labour Party again. But most of all, it is with pride and humility that I stand before you with the support of the trade union movement in Scotland, with 11 out of 12 trade unions nominating me. Maybe you can guess who the 12th one was. But I stand with great humility, knowing that I have the support of this union. So I want to say thank you to all of those lay delegates who have supported me. And let me just emphasise, it was a decision taken by the lay delegates of this union in Scotland, not by dictatorship from outside or from anywhere else. It was a decision made by the lay delegates of this union in Glasgow, collectively through the Scottish executive of this union. So I'm proud of the fact that I, as somebody who joined the Transport and General Workers Union over 30 years ago, have received your support. And that support is there because we all know in this room, that the working people of this country want more than anything a Labour Party that they can once again believe in, a Scottish Labour Party that is once again on their side. And the truth is this, that it is going to be only with authentic and radical Labour leadership in Scotland, authentic, real and bold leadership which is founded on a rock of consistency and so delivered with credibility, in step with the principled leadership of Jeremy Corbyn across the UK, that working people in this country, including many members of this union, Unite, will believe in the Scottish Labour Party again and will start voting for the Scottish Labour Party again. And so with this ballot now underway, the question is this: who is the candidate best placed to reach out to win back those lost Labour votes? Who is the candidate best placed to be a bridge and not a barrier to those young voters? Who is the candidate best placed to win back those Labour voters who have drifted away from us? This morning, I want, though, to issue a warning against any complacency, because as we meet today, the real ballot in this leadership contest has only just opened. The list of nominations backing me is strong, but already we are seeing pleas for the, I quote, silent majority to overturn the vote of party activists, those old politics of division. And for weeks, we have seen this trade union movement, which, let me remind people, founded the Labour Party in the first place, coming under attack. And I tell you that the participation of Unite members, of trade union members, the length and breadth of Scotland, is not a source of weakness, it is a sign of our strength. Because for the avoidance of doubt, we are not a party of capital, we are a party of Labour. And that is why tomorrow morning I will be on the picket line at Capita in Stirling, supporting those Unite members. And so my appeal to you today is, if you haven't already done so, please cast your vote for me. But please join in the campaign as well. Be an activist and not just a voter, because the battle is truly on. Do not regret on the 18th of November that you might have done more to persuade people to vote in this historic ballot, to change the Scottish Labour Party and so to change Scotland. I've been fortunate enough to spend all of my adult life in Scotland, and for most of it working with the singular privilege of serving the gallant women and men in this Scottish trade union movement. For all the talk of my education, this is where my great education has been, inside the Scottish Labour and trade union movement. winning equal pay, often for low-paid women workers, fighting for justice for blacklisted workers, for the victims of asbestos, defending jobs in manufacturing and public services, advancing the interests of all working people. So my inspiration in this leadership contest comes from those largely hidden from history, those toiling day in and day out in the struggle for justice in workplaces and communities across Scotland. They are what drives me on to bring about the real change that we need. The real change that we need to tackle poverty and inequality by redistributing wealth through the tax system, not by propping up a low-wage economy with residual relief for the poor, but by fundamentally changing the distribution of power in the economy from the few to the many. The real change needed as well to develop a manufacturing strategy as part of an industrial policy so that we have a lot less market and a lot more economic planning, with trade unions at the centre of that, not simply defending members' interests, but planning for an industrial future in Scotland that will deliver 21st century jobs with 21st century conditions. The real change needed as well to revitalise and re-empower local government, to run public transport as a public good for all our citizens, including putting our railways back into public ownership and putting our bus passenger services back into municipal ownership as well. Real change too to give workers the statutory right to buy the business they work in if it is put up for sale or facing closure. Because why shouldn't the people who create the wealth own the wealth that they create? Real change to tackle the housing crisis too, with a Mary Barber law, a new Rent Restrictions Act, and a major programme of social house building, and yes, including council house building as well. Scotland needs a radical and transformative Labour Party as much now as it ever has. So I will campaign in the weeks ahead with the ideas for the future, a positive campaign focusing on policies and principles and not personalities, reaching out once more to working people through our trade unions and into our communities, giving people a sense of hope out of despair, offering real change built on substance with democratic socialist principles and policies and not managerialism at our core. Because I know, and you know, that if we do that, not only will Labour win again, Labour will deserve to win again. Thanks for your support and thanks for your time.